So we managed to drag ourselves back in today. And just as a reminder, if you look under the YouTube video, under the description at the bottom, if you expand that out, look at it, we've got a link to our YouTube video page. And then we've got a link to the, well, first of all, so under there, it's got this whole group of descriptions. And then I take that and copy that to our big composite index. So there's a link to the HTML composite index where we've got multiple years of us coming on babbling like this. And that just, if you dig through that index, you possibly can search for something like search for GPS or search for motor control or whatever you want. And it's got, hundreds of lines of entry in that. And then each one has the little thumbnail. So it's easier to see, rather than just having text, and it shows you the picture. And then also right there in the index, you can just click on the picture and it takes you right to the video, or there's a link there that'll take you to the video. So that's something, by using the index and the our YouTube page, YouTube images page, you can coordinate those together and hopefully come up with something useful. And then there's also a link out to the original ROS agriculture stuff there, where I started an index for that, which is a text-based thing and it's hard to use. But if you really want to know what's back there or what's out there, you can search through that one and find what you want. And there you have to actually you have to copy the link to the YouTube video and paste it in their window. And as far as I know, none of that's been deleted, even though Matt went through and deleted everything off the index page. So it looks like all the data is gone. But I think if you go through my index for that one, you can also go to the ROS agriculture stuff. And I get there might be a link to our Slack channel. Yeah, I think there's a link to the Slack channel, and I'm going to add the link to start the Zoom meeting. And other than that, it's just a way to try to tie all this stuff together and make everybody happy. Make it somewhat usable, which is the whole point of when we started this. We want to be able to say, here's what we're doing, here's what we want to do, and we might do tutorials or whatever. And then, so theoretically, you could go through the index and say, search for a tutorial or search for, under the ROS agriculture stuff, you search for presentation. You get people, there's a guy from Norway that was working on this really fabulous looking field out by the fjord, and he's got automated tractors, and he's got some kind of a miniature robot inside of their office that drives around. But if you search for presentations, that kind of stuff will show up. And as I keep saying, I should make a little video explaining that and go through and show, say, here's what the links are. And you click on it, it does this. This is how you use the index. But I'm too lazy to do that. So, and I didn't do anything this week, so I'll just turn it over to Al.
Okay. Um, this is a picture of my electronics board. Um, Happens to be mounted to this metal frame, which is on the tractor. This happens to be physically in Texas. I've got two tractors in varying states of operation. And so at the moment, I have a tractor in Pennsylvania and I need to build this metal frame or have it built. This one I had fabricated by a fabricator in Texas. I got to looking at it. Um, I had specified this and he cut it out on a CNC machine, but I think there's an easier way to do that if I just buy inch and a half, say 3/16 inch flat bar. And I was thinking about this is a press you can get at Harbor Freight to bend flat bar. Requires you to buy this shop press. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, how am I going to explain that? Um, so I've got two things, the explanation and the physical location, but that's one of the things that's going through my head is how to I've got to find somebody or make it myself another frame to hold my, well, I want to build another frame to hold my electronics. So that was one of the things that was going around.
So
Uh,
why do you need that press?
to make the 90-degree bends.
Because another thing you can do, just get angle iron and say inch and a half or whatever, and just cut it off to the length to make your own L brackets by just taking the angle iron and cutting that off. If you don't want to have to buy a press and do all that stuff, but if you have other uses for that press, that might be a reasonable thing to invest in.
Yeah. And then so it's having one, say, 5 foot piece bent in a U shape versus 3 pieces with angle iron and the bolts, right? That's really the trade-off.
Yeah, I guess. And also keep in mind if you're going to just bend a big U-shaped piece, when you're done, you're going to find out the two ends don't come out where you expect them to be. So that's going to take maybe with enough experience, enough playing around, you can get that to work. Or you just make them so a little bit longer, and then when you're done, take a hacksaw and cut the two off to the same length.
See what
So
I tell you, Bob? I can overcomplicate things. So Jeff is like 6 cuts and some angle iron and some drilling some holes.
Yeah.
And it
Um,
could even be go to like say Home Depot or whatever. They got that whole rack of brackets and stuff. You might just be able to buy like various L brackets there that would do, close enough to what you want, so you don't even have to, just pick up a handful of those, take them home, and drill the holes and bolt it all together. So that's another option on that.
Yeah.
what else was going on? Let's see. So, in, part of this, trying to make it bigger here, doesn't let me go. Come on. I guess it's not going to let me move it around the way I want to move it around. I had used a series of, I don't know, there's probably a dozen or so of these little proto boards on here holding various components. And I thought for version 2 or tractor number 2, how would I clean this up? One option was to try to make a PCB to hold a few of these components. Um, I had previously messed around with something called KiCad, KiCad, um, and it lets you create a PCB board. Actually, I'd used Easy EDA before, but what was interesting about this KiCad is it has a bit of a programming language, sort of like, I don't know, G code or somewhere between a programming language and G code. It lets you define where your holes are, what size the holes are, and it's giving basically instructions to the PCB manufacturer. So I was piddling around with that, and so this represents the Teensy 4.1. This is a JRK motor controller for the linear actuator. And after I was getting a little bit frustrated with getting all these daggone things lined up exactly right, um, I'm like, well, maybe I could just use another IBT2 for this is an IBT2 for the steering motor. This is where the JRK was physically sitting, and I was like, well, maybe I could just. This is a little bit of a complex and a $60 item. This is a $10 item. So I was thinking through to what do I want to use in sort of the next version. So that's one of the other things going on in my head.
I'd like to make a couple comments here before we move on. Your
Go
your
right ahead.
audio is kind of popping in and out from left to right. Maybe take your connector, unplug and plug it back in, or just wiggle it or something on the computer. Maybe that'll take care of that.
Okay.
And the other thing, talk about overcomplicating things. Yes, that program has an internal programming language, but the whole point is you shouldn't have to do that. You should just be able to just build stuff on the screen um, and move on from there. Typically, a program like that will have a library of parts that people put together. So you'd say if you've got an IBT2, what was that part that you were trying to build that was a motor controller?
Well, I didn't build it. The IBT2 is a 43 amp motor controller you can get on Amazon for $10.
Whatever you're going to use, whatever you're trying to do in your CAD program there, say I want to add parts, and there should be a big library of parts, and just see if the thing you have already exists, that JRK thing, and see if somebody um, it has that already pre-built for you, and if it does, you just plop it down on the screen and say, "Here's what I want." There will be a schematic symbol, and then there will be like a board layout, and the schematic symbol might be as simple as a box with pins labeled on it, and then uh, it may have the mechanical part where it tells you where all the pins and everything are. So
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because the Teensy I was able to find somebody who had pre-built that. I couldn't find anybody who had pre-built this particular JRK motor controller.
okay, and as far yeah, I've never used this particular program, but typically they all have a library of schematic parts and a library of physical parts. And so when you build this, then you would have to put this board layout. You'd have to put that into your the mechanical library. And then for the schematic library, you just have like build a rectangle, say, here's four pins sticking out, and you may or may not want the ground or the mounting holes. You may or may not want to define that because you could, if those are tied to ground, you could say, so you get MH1 through MH3. You could say, put it down, say these are holes, and then you might want to connect those to ground for your schematic. But anyway, it's something just to play with, I guess, as you go.
Yeah, this is what they call their footprint editor, and these are all the pre-made footprints. I mean, so you can um, this happens to be a JST, connector. Um, so they have tons of stuff already in their
Yeah,
library. What they didn't have is anything from these JRK people, and some people have these KiCad files in their GitHub. So I was actually able to find the Teensy in somebody's GitHub library and just added it added it to it. So that worked out really nicely.
yeah,
So anyway, that's a couple of things that are going on. I had posted on Slack some links that Matt Droter, our founding father, had sent me. Um, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but he had mentioned that there's somebody trying to use ROS in the agricultural setting, and they've made some progress and posted those links. It's certainly worth taking a look at. Um, Looks like they're integrating an ESP32 and an ARM, two powerful ARM processors um, in this robot. And then I just posted some videos of, actual doing stuff what I call the old-fashioned way, and smoothing out a cow pasture that had been used through the winter for me anyway. What happens is you move them off a pasture in the spring, and the pasture they are coming from has got lots of cow patties, and in Texas it's got ant hills. So showing a little bit of using this device to smooth all that out. Very happy with the device, but no robots used here. No robots were harmed in the making of this video.
so did you intend for those to be videos or just be images? I clicked on one, it popped on I'll click on it and get the video to play, and they're just individual photographs. So I was just curious if you intended to post the video or just the picture.
Yeah, I think It must be the way Slack presents it. It's meant to be a video. And if you click it correctly or the way Google or Slack wants you to, you can get the video to play.
Well, maybe I'll go try that because I couldn't get it to do anything. So let me go look.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think if you just click the middle of the page, you're going to get what looks like an image. You have to go click on
Hmm. Oh, the link.
the link and then play it.
okay, I'll try that. Because I noticed it's stored under Google Photos, but I guess that doesn't necessarily mean everything. But so
Yeah,
let's
it was
go
just a
to
place to store
random
it.
new video. Let's try that. Yeah,
Okay, here's my first tip.
yeah, that does work if you click on the link and not the image. It seems to work. I don't know why that is. That's just more odd things that Zoom does. We'll add it to the list of weird Zoom stuff.
So anyway, that's all that's going on in my world, trying to keep making progress.
And before we move on here, I was going to point out that I was thinking about, last week we were talking about last week or the week before we were talking about, protecting your boards and thermal management. And I was doing some digging, and people don't really seem to know how to do thermal management, or they don't seem to know why you need it. And people are saying, well, anecdotally, I have a Raspberry Pi that runs outside all year round, and they said it'll run at -20 and doesn't complain. And Al had at least one story about his thing with the Raspberry Pi for his RTK base station, and I think the consensus was his works without doing anything really special on it. So I was thinking about that, and uh, before people get too carried away with building stuff, it really comes down to the point where you should decide ahead of time. If you can do this, decide ahead of time what you want to use, and maybe build an insulated box that your whole assembly will drop down in, and that way you might be able to control the temperature that way. So I was just thinking of, why you'd want to do this and what kind of experiments you could run, which I haven't come up with anything definitive yet, but I just wanted to people to start thinking about that so as you get ready to build your thing. Do you care about thermal management? If you do, maybe you want it to fit in a styrofoam box, like say a
Hmm.
beer cooler or something. But and it could be my opinion is the stuff I run, my stuff's not going to be outside long enough to cool down to the point where it's not going to work anyway. And the other thing I found out was nobody seemed to know what the actual range for, electronic components are, and if they get too cold, why they're going to fail. And finally, I thought, well, let me go down the path of Raspberry Pi, and I found people talking about this. And one of the first pages I found says, "Say, I want to run this." He wanted to run like -60 degrees C up to some huge number on the hot side, and he's saying, where can I find this spec for the Raspberry Pi? And after two or three entries, somebody decided to be smart and said, oh, if you got to look at the main FAQ for Raspberry Pi, they tell you in there. And the next posting, I didn't notice it was immediately or several weeks later, the guy says, no, it's not in there. So they won't tell you. And as far as I can tell, nobody knows what the official temperature range for Raspberry Pi is. And people would give anecdotal information, like I say the one guy had his running outside, and he said it run like at -20 degrees Fahrenheit without any problems. So anyway, I was thinking about that, and just to the point where I was thinking about it, I don't have anything to present at this point. So I just want to point that out before we move on here. So anyway, I pointed it out, and I see Bob looks like he has something ready to go here.
I don't know how this is going to turn out.
It's kind of blurry.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's definitely blurry.
Uh, I guess it won't. Anyway, what it was is the screen on the TV where I've got ChatGPT open, but I was kind of hoping to uh, explain what was going on, so I'll just have to do a verbal walkthrough, kind of blind. Um, last several weeks been trying to build that robot, and I had some success when it was really small, uh, where I could control it from the keyboard. And then it took a while to get through the networking part, but I found out that um, I had to have a server on the Nano, and it recommended using Flask. And then a few hours later, it switched and went to a different server, which of course broke everything else. So the problem I kept running into is that it'd be okay for a while, but then it would arbitrarily start making changes without telling me about it, and I'd go down that rabbit hole and waste a lot of time and tokens on trying to fix it. So I kind of just stopped and said, okay, let's find some videos. So I used chat to find some chat videos. They came up with some, and that looks interesting. I have to spend more time on it. Let's see. And then one of the videos suggested or talked about how to create, you should create agents to do some of this stuff, but it wasn't in a robot context. So I asked Chad if it could do it, and it said, oh, yeah. In fact, that would be a good way to do it. But I kept looking for other ways of doing things. And I'll see. I'm going over here. Then it came up with more or less a design plan with different stages that could be locked. So like what Al was doing with his Claude. And the thing is, this chat keeps blaming me for making all these revisions, and I get lost in the chaos, but it was chat that was making the revisions. The other thing I noticed that this program will do is you can share development. There's a share button, and I guess you just add people's email addresses. And I don't know how that really works. What's the difference between using, like, creating a project and inviting people, or just inviting to join a chat session? I think that the two are different. Um, the chat might be good for just comments here and there. So right now I'm right back to this is my starting point. I think I will figure out how to try and lock each stage and troubleshoot it real quick. And hopefully it doesn't drag on too much. But then I think I'll also want to put Zoom on my laptop so I can share things a lot easier. So that's about it.
I've not tried that share thing, Bob. I mean, I'm happy to test it out with you if you want to give it a try sometime.
Okay. And then, yeah, I think I got your email address. So if not, I'll look through and ask you. So, but the weather here is getting really nice, so I have to go outside this afternoon, take a break from this monster. And but yeah, I'll do that.
And take a step, go back to the first thing you did where you're trying to point your camera at your TV and see if
Oh,
moving it further, either closer to the TV or further away, if it'll see if that'll focus.
okay. Here is what did I do? Break something?
No,
No,
we
we
can
can
we can
still
see it.
see.
Oh, okay. Um, Here it's close. You see anything?
Yeah,
Still
we can
fuzzy.
see it, but it's a little blurry. So
Oh,
try moving it further out and see. And you might have to. One of the problems with the cameras is they try to autofocus, and if you're jiggling around, that'll confuse it too. So
Oh,
if your hand holding it may or may not work, and
yeah.
it could be if you get really close with it, it will. But does that particular camera have any options that you could you say set it to macro mode, which is like a close up thing, or
I I can pinch the screen to make it bigger or smaller, and it does do some autofocus. I'll have to experiment with it.
I was just thinking if you
Probably,
get that figured out, then that would save one step of, you know,
Yeah,
if it did what you wanted it to, that would just be
yeah.
easier in the long run.
Can you see the screen at all, or?
We can see it. It's just too blurry to read.
I suppose that's real blurry. That's about 6 inches away.
But get really close and just see if it does focus as you get closer. I'm just curious.
Okay, now I'm about 4 inches.
We can read that. It's big enough that even though it's a little blurry, it's big enough that we could read that. But that would be real hard to get the entire, to
Yeah.
try to cover the entire screen by that way.
I mean, Bob, just click on the Zoom link from that machine and open in browser when you get that option, and
Okay.
you can share that screen.
Okay, I'll do that.
I mean, assuming that machine has internet connection.
Yep.
It just might be easier than farting around with cameras and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Some idea better.
I mean, feel free to do that now if you want. Got time.
Let's see. Well, I better think about it, how I'm going to do it.
No worries.
So if I go up into my,
Open the browser, go to slack.com, sign on, and then click on the link that Jeff and I sent you earlier for Zoom.
I don't have Slack on.
You can open Slack in the browser.
Oh, okay. Um, okay, there's Slack. And
Which
open that.
I think the way I do it, I just take the link and post it in the browser, and then I think it'll go through and take you up to the window. It says, "Oh, here, if that didn't work, here, click here to open it in the browser."
Yeah. Mm, I'm trying to find where is that? So get it? Get No, I'll have to type it in by hand. No, I better work on this some. So I'll work on it tonight.
Again, what you're trying to do is get a copy of the link. I mean, you might have other ways to get the Zoom link, but one way is to log on to slack.com in the browser, sign in, and then the Zoom link will be in the channel messages that you've got.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the way. Yeah. I want to put Slack on the large TV anyway because it's easier. So I'll be doing that.
Well, again, you have options about whether you want to load the software or you just use it through the browser. I would,
Sure.
here again, Mr. Overcomplicated, suggesting simple things, but keep
Yeah.
it on the browser. See, Jeff would rather just like cut 5 pieces of metal and use some angle iron, and I would rather go, buy a press that I have no place to put it.
You'll end up with a complete metal shop.
Yeah, shoot, Jeff, what fun is that, man? Come on.
I just think someday you gotta get rid of all that crap.
Yeah, I know. It's
Like
like
either you have to move or
buying this for my son or son-in-law.
yeah. Especially if that's the case, if you can buy it for somebody else and they'll let you come over and use it, it's not even taking up your space at that time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Every once in a while, I was thinking about looking at our makerspace again, and it's because right now, since I lost any like workspace here at home, that well I could sign up and go over there, but they're so out of control. I don't know what they're doing. They're talking about buying a new building and moving, and I don't know. I just don't want to get involved with them again.
Yeah, I had a brief period of time in the Houston makerspace, and yeah, it didn't really work out very well.
Well, that's one thing I miss about the farm. I had plenty of room and plenty of tools, but when we moved, I had to get rid of the welder and a few other things. So about the only thing I can build with actually is maybe a little bit of Home Depot metal, but probably more 2x4s or 2x2s and things like that.
Okay, Jeff, I'm all set.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, let's see if I click this button, stop recording.